So right at the end of the month, we're going to get a new season of The Mandalorian. That was a Disney Plus show that I think was universally pretty liked. Most people enjoyed that show. Not a lot of anger or frustration over it. We know that the Obi-Wan kind of prequel-ish somewhere, Ewan McGregor is doing it. That is going to start filming soon. We have heard lots about other Star Wars films on the horizon, but where does Star Wars go from here? It feels like a property that's a bit rudderless. Let's talk about that. Hey everybody, this is Perch, and no, I'm not getting into Kathleen Kennedy and how she has saved or destroyed the Star Wars universe, depending on your point of view. Feel free to go into that in the comments, but that's been covered many places. For me, it's more, Star Wars is an interesting property, especially it's interesting if you kind of compare it to kind of the rollout of the MCU and then the rollout of Star Wars within Disney, and you kind of look at both of them. I think it's pretty clear that the Disney's initial kind of barometer was on Star Wars, that was going to be the big money maker, that was going to be the franchise, and then some other stuff would happen with Marvel. It felt like definitely the emphasis was there. And I say that from the perspective of how they were treating it in the media and how they were treating it in the parks. Star Wars was the big deal. Now, granted, Disney has some issues with the characters and the licenses and how it fits into the parks. And there's, especially West Coast, East Coast, and where the rights sit with Universal and themselves. So, I mean, there's some complexities here, which I'm not just kind of hand waving out of the way. But in general, Disney Star Wars was their big plan. And then the MCU took off, and it was winning by volume in a lot of cases. You had more movies hit every year. You had it building up to something big. And Star Wars, and you were getting, I think, more bang for the buck initially, in the sense that, yes, they were putting a lot of money into the Marvel movies, but not as much as they were, making the plans for with Star Wars. And then as Disney was kind of throwing out, things like Guardians of the Galaxy and some of the spin-offs outside the core, they were working, especially when they got their kind of into their groove. And, you have Black Panther and Captain Marvel coming out making lots of money. But over in Star Wars, you had Rogue One, you had Solo, and it just missing with audiences. Now, a lot has been said about kind of, angry fan reactions, and that, really isolated fans around the time of The Last Jedi. And, again, there's certainly some truth to that. But if you take a step backward for a moment and you just look at kind of maximizing the dollars outside of that property, the last thing that a corporation wants is to get into a conversation around, should a property be renewed and refreshed, or does it need to defy fan expectations, and all that kind of stuff is distracting to bean counters who just want to make money. It's interesting for us to talk about. I mean, in video channels, a lot of people have made YouTube careers based on that. But it's not all the, what a company, a studio really wants is just, buzz, attention, no real controversies, just like, hey, this is a solid movie, you should go see it. Everything that kind of creates controversy is a distraction. That's why Disney was, I think, very aggressive. And again, I'm going to hand wave over a bunch of history I'm sure people want to talk about more, but Disney was very aggressive in how they handled Captain Marvel, as people were coming in and making kind of the angry videos and what's Brie Larson saying here, and kind of the some of the statements were made early on around, I hope that this demographic is going to be reporting on this and not other demographic. I want women to be reporting and not men, or whatever, all that stuff that went into. You notice that went away rather quickly, and the reason is not because Disney agreed or disagreed. It's because it was noise. It was a distraction. That's the thing that kind of really hooks into studios. Now, Marvel Comics went out and they made the Star Wars comics, and they initially sold really well, and then they just kind of vanished into the ether. And right now, from a comic book perspective, and I mean no disrespect to anybody that making the comics, it's hard to figure out what the plan is. There's a regular Star Wars comic. It doesn't sell at the top or anywhere close to the top anymore. You've got a Bounty Hunters comic. You have you just have a lot of kind of weird properties. You got a Darth Vader comic out there. You have a Dr. Aphra comic, but it's hard to really understand kind of what the plan is. What is the goal here with Star Wars? And then that carries over to the movies. I think most people believe, and correctly so, that there will be more Star Wars movies. There will be at some point. They're going to throw more movies out to the franchise. They're going to try and get people excited about things, and again, more power to them. It's hard to tell when and where and how that all gets going. The Mandalorian, I think, is going to truck along. I think Obi-Wan will do well. I think they'll try and pile in a couple more there, and they're going to kind of grow it in that direction for a while. But at some point, they're going to need to get back to a feature film. And where are they going to go? Are they going to try and kick off a brand new franchise? Unfortunately, Star Wars has a lot of baggage, and that's not going to go away even if 10 years from now they release their next movie. There's going to be a group of people who liked the kind of bold new fan-defying direction that Last Jedi went into, but they're not necessarily going to stick around for the next set of sequels. There's the existing fans who feel like they were wronged in some way, and they're going to be skeptical to go to something new. And so you're stuck in a weird kind of brand nowhere, no man's land of where does it go? How do you build it back up again? It's weird. I've heard some people recently start to speculate the best thing they could do is literally remake the original trilogy, like hire new actors and remake them. And I think that's a terrible idea. But I understand where you get there as a property. You get there basically of we need to get things back on the right track and we need to reset. It feels they're not going to do. I mean, I'd be shocked if they did. More films with Rey. Are they going to? Is there going to be another Rey movie? Doesn't seem like it. And therein creates an interesting controversy for people because there's a lot of people who've weighed in on these films to say, the point isn't to make 3 more Rey movies. Okay, I hear you, and it's fine. Movies should just be good for what they are, except this isn't just making movies. This is making a brand franchise. This is trying to create something ongoing that's going to last. And you can argue with that, but you'd be wrong. It's Star Wars is not intended to be kind of a one and done. It's an artsy movie, and then we're done. So when you spend 3 movies kind of building up, for example, Rey Skywalker or Rey Palpatine, depending on which way you want to go, and you send 3 movies kind of building up this character, and then you're done. It's going in the opposite direction of what franchises typically do. And please understand, I'm trying to be very careful in how I word this. This isn't about, should they have built her up? Is she a Mary Sue? Is she not a Mary Sue? Any of that kind of stuff. It's purely think about this as a portfolio property that Disney wants to make a lot of money off of. Kind of how I started, they started building theme park attractions. They're starting to build kind of ongoing brand IP. And so in doing so, Star Wars as a universe is not, exciting to the point of, in terms of being a billion-dollar franchise where you can just roll out other stories within the universe with no known characters without, having to build that groundwork. It's going to be tough for them. Now, I think they're going to try and they're going to hopefully be successful. I want these things to succeed. I like many of you, I grew up with Star Wars in a lot of cases, so I wanted this stuff to do well. But it's interesting to look in hindsight and see how much Disney kind of backed themselves into a weird corner, almost satisfying no one. And it really does drill into the point of when you get such angst, such arguments on either side. It's not pointing to the people who hated the movie or loved the movie or liked Rian Johnson or hated Rian Johnson or J.J. Abrams is just nostalgia bait or whatever it happens to be. That kind of conflict tends to be damaging for a property, and it's something valuable to keep in mind when you're pumping out MCU movies and everything else. It's fine for those controversies when it's a one and done film. Knives Out by Rian Johnson had some controversy. It made, easily beat expectations, and there will be a sequel, and that's fine. But when you're talking about a brand like a Star Wars or a Marvel or DC or whatever it happens to be, this kind of noise tends to be poison. and recovering from that is a trick. But anyway, just thought I'd talk a little bit about it. With the Mandalorian coming out, with more Star Wars coming out. Where is the Star Wars brand in your mind? Where have we left it? Where do you want to see it go? Leave a comment below. By the way, whether it's with movies, with comics, with whatever, I think if you start with the premise of this is a valuable piece of IP, clearly they've got merchandise and toys and movies and theme park rides and all kinds of things. It was a multi-billion-dollar acquisition, so it's clearly a valuable franchise. Where do you take it from here? How do you make your money? Or do you just give up? I mean, nobody's going to give up. Let's just we'll throw that out there. So what do you do? Anyway, leave me a comment below, like, subscribe, click the bell for notifications, but most importantly, thanks for listening.